Very, very big news days. The NDA government, as you all know, has been fairly open about suggesting that it is the victim of a slander campaign run by an ecosystem of ultra-leftist Marxists in India and abroad. A few years ago, it even sought to identify the individual they believe funds this endeavor of not just destabilizing the government, but also by doing so undermining India's democratic credentials and its institutions. Well, viewers, the NDA then settled upon George Soros, Hungarian-American billionaire who positions himself as a political activist. The NDA believes that Soros founded and funded open society foundations to pump money into Indian media and think tanks to destabilize the Modi regime, and with that the political stability of the country by constantly perpetuating myths to misinform the people, spread disinformation with the view of sparking anarchy, civil unrest, and most importantly, viewers, a civil war. The NDA was so convinced of Soros's designs, alleged designs, that it put the Soros Foundation on a watch list. The foundation hit back and challenged its inclusion on the watch list. The matter is in court. This has been going on now for 3 years. Today, however, viewers, in spectacular fashion, the gloves are off. George Soros has targeted Prime Minister Modi from an international pulpit. Raking up the Hindenburg hit on Adani, Soros said that this was guaranteed to weaken Prime Minister Modi as it would spark a democratic revival in India. Listen to Soros as he hopes for regime change in the country before 2024. Listen in.
It's a democracy, but its leader, Narendra Modi, is no Democrat. Inciting violence against Muslims was an important factor in his meteoric rise. India is a member of the Quad, which also includes Australia, the US, and Japan. But it buys a lot of Russian oil at a steep discount. Modi and business tycoon Adani are close allies. Modi is silent on the subject, but he will have to answer questions from foreign investors and in Parliament. This will significantly weaken Modi's stranglehold on India's federal government and open the door to push for much-needed institutional reforms.
Viewers, it's interesting that George Soros should talk about India being a member of the Quad, but purchasing Russian oil at cheap price. Now, viewers, this is clearly an attempt to get the Quad partners to turn against India, but he didn't answer the fundamental question: who is buying that oil? Yes, companies, not the Indian government, viewers. Oil marketing companies are out there and they're picking up the cheapest oil. That oil, viewers, is then rerouted by these companies where? To Europe. To Europe, viewers, to the Americans, to any and every bidder. They all know the source of this oil. They don't say no to it. Viewers, for a very long time, for a very, very long time, Mr. George Soros has been running an agenda against even Russia, forgetting that it was the West, and you just have to go back into history that continued to invest in NATO even after the fall of communism. Clearly, viewers, the West, to further the interests of its own military-industrial complex, wanted to paint Moscow as a force inimical to democracy, even though communism had collapsed. And for a while, Moscow was embracing democracy. They never let it in either to NATO. What was the reason to have NATO, viewers? Think about that. Nonetheless, stung by what they believed is a direct call to meddle in India's internal affairs and spark disaffection against the NDA government, the BJP fielded Smriti Irani, and she countered Soros. Listen in.
जॉर्ज सोरोस का जो ऐलान हुआ है, वो ऐलान आप निश्चित रूप से बारीकी से समझें। वो हमारी डेमोक्रेसी को ध्वस्त करने का ऐलान मात्र इसलिए करते हैं ताकि उनके हैंड पिक्ड लोग सरकार चलाएं। उन्होंने एक फंड का ऐलान किया, $1 बिलियन का, जो वो हिंदुस्तान में और जहां जहां हिंदुस्तान के इंटरेस्ट है वहां पर संचारित करेंगे ताकि हिंदुस्तान को ठेस पहुंचे। मोदी की इमेज पर वार पहली बार नहीं हुआ है। हिंदुस्तान के लोकतांत्रिक ढांचे पर वार का ऐलान उन्होंने पहली बार किया है जॉर्ज सोरोस ने। This war is trying to be mounted against India. And what stands between that war and our country's interests is Prime Minister Modi.
So is George Soros really, viewers, a non-state player looking to dislodge the Modi government? Our reporters have gathered some open source intelligence that reveals an allegedly insidious plot against the Modi government and beyond. Why, viewers, beyond? Because the hope is to thwart India's rise by injecting a sense of anarchy, instability, and through that, viewers, a complete mistrust of India's democratic institutions. So here is what we have gathered, and let me just take you through it. Geopolitical interference by a non-state player shows powers working against India's interests. So this is what is being talked about in intelligence circles, and it's being put out, viewers, through different views and means. Soros runs destabilizing economy operation through Open Society Foundations. Open Society Foundations is, of course, a platform that he set up. In January 2020, he pledged $1 billion to bring India's authoritarian regime down. In fact, George Soros has come out and even owned up to this mission. And he says that the Modi government is an authoritarian regime. The NGO left media that creates chaos halts development process linked to Open Society Foundations. After his 2020 anti-India speech, OSF put in prior permission list of FCRA, as I told you, viewers. But these organizations work in tandem, making a complex web of funds movement. So all this fund constantly moves. It's very difficult to pin the source of the money down. It's not difficult to pump money in India. Soros is a strong pillar of that ecosystem. This is all that is being revealed, viewers. Left liberals across the world are a cheap labor and act as deep state of organizations like the OSF. The idea is to penetrate into institutions and then start undermining them. Soros has come out in the open with sinister plans to corroborate this research. Now expect more chaos, psyops, financial attacks like Hindenburg. 2024 is probably the last chance for an old man, Soros, to realize his plans. And remember, Soros was under the lens for shorting the Bank of England. That was a massive hit, viewers. The Bank of England lost more than $1 billion. So this individual is not someone who can be treated lightly. Soros' specifically anti-Modi stance is no secret. George Soros himself in 2020 pledged $1 billion to fight nationalists with an aim to bring down what he calls this authoritarian regime. He identifies the Modi regime with authoritarianism. He says, I've committed $1 billion to start a global university to fight nationalists and climate change. These are the twin challenges that threaten the survival of civilization. Prime Minister Modi is creating a Hindu nationalist state by imposing punitive measures on Kashmir and threatening to deprive millions of Muslims of their citizenship. Now, viewers, where is this money being spent, and does it prompt the recipients to take an anti-Modi line, even at the cost of sometimes rewriting the truth? Let's walk you through where this money ends up. And viewers, Open Society Foundations itself declares where it puts the money. It's unabashed. So viewers, Reporters Without Borders is an important recipient. It's ranked India at 150 in the Press Freedom Index. It is funded by Soros. This is not the only agency, viewers, that is in the business of certifying democracy and credentials. Let me tell you, in 2009, Freedom House, you will remember Freedom House, it's often quoted by the Congress Party, the opposition in this country, was part of donor partners of Open Societies Foundations. You can go on the net, check with Open Societies Foundation, you see it there. Freedom House, of course, viewers, keeps downgrading India on the Freedom and Democracy Index. Remember that. In 2021, VDEM Index that downgraded India on the Freedom and Democracy sweepstakes, funded by Soros, once again, they downgraded India from being the world's largest democracy to an electoral autocracy. Rahul Gandhi, the Congress, the opposition, many parties all tweeted this out, saying that this proves the point that they have been making about India becoming an autocracy. So these are at least two of these issues. Amnesty and Forbidden Stories, part of Pegasus. Remember, viewers, they are the ones who said that Pegasus was being used to snoop across this country on just about everybody. Amnesty and Forbidden Stories, part of the Pegasus entire investigation, revelations, they were given grants by Soros' NGO. Sherpa. Sherpa is a media group partnered by Open Society Foundations. Once again, Soros' group. Sherpa had taken the French government to court over the 36 Rafale jet deal, which was signed with India. It's quite funny, viewers. It all seems to keep going back to one individual. He funds a number of organizations in India, and let's just talk a little bit about that. The International Press Institute awarded The Wire as the free media pioneer. Again, it's funded by Soros. Just think about that, viewers. Peace Research Institute, Oslo, the PRIO, you remember them? They nominated Zubair, Muhammad Zubair, for the Nobel, again funded by Soros. It's all out there. Open Society Foundations talks about this. Just go and check. International Fact-Checking Network, IFCN, as it is called. Alt News, a fact-check signatory. It made it one, again funded by Soros. This is all open source intelligence. You can just click on this particular foundation set up by Mr. Soros, and they admit to it openly. The BJP claims that it has also decoded an interesting web of vested interests that are tied in with the Congress. So, founded, the Open Society Foundation, as I told you, viewers, founded by Soros. Let's go to the next one, the web of vested interests. Let's go to that. That's right. That's on your screens. Just pay attention. Namati, a benefactor of CPR, which is the Center for Policy Research, which is a think tank. It is headed by, according to government sources in the BJP, Manishankar Iyer's daughter, Yamini Iyer. Let's not also read much into this. If you were to just think for a moment that what's the big deal? All these organizations are in the business of supporting democracy. So what's the big deal? Well, let's go a little further. Soros has, the BJP claims close links to the Gandhi-Nehru family. Soros links to the Nehru-Gandhis. Salil Shetty, who is a big wig in the foundation set up by Soros. He's the vice president, was seen marching with Rahul Gandhi in the Bharat Jodo Yatra. There you can see them. Manmohan Singh, the late, the daughter of Manmohan Singh, is at OSF, which is Open Societies Foundation, and she works as a director in New York. Whether this is sheer coincidence or if this is part of a larger, some sort of a larger cabal of intrigue, we can't say. Soros friends with Foreign Nehru. Foreign Nehru was married to BK Nehru, Jawaharlal's cousin. He came in a private jet to wish her on her 100th birthday. Viewers, so there's also sort of family friendship. Obviously, viewers, the Congress and others are today suggesting that while they may not agree with Mr. Soros, he isn't off the mark when he suggests that there is a huge problem with relations to the Adani story and Adani's contacts and his connections with the BJP, especially the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it needs to be investigated. And of course, the matter is pending before the Supreme Court even as we speak. Let's open this up. Let's ask some basic questions. Now, I want to begin with Mr. Amit Malviya, the national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Malviya, look, there is no crime in fighting for democracy and its upkeep anywhere across the world. Why not? It's the best thing that humankind gave itself in the modern era. So if someone feels passionately about democracy and they fight for it and they fund people who want to fight for it, what's wrong with that? Why should we believe that there is more to this entire exercise than what obviously is the intention?
Well, Rahul, most certainly, everyone has the right to fight for democratic values and what they believe to be right. But who exactly is George Soros to interfere in India's internal matter? He's not an Indian citizen. And last I knew, he was a billionaire investor who is known for his reputation, a notorious one at that, for meddling in affairs of democracies around the world. And what is it that changed for George Soros between 2006, when he was here in India, and in an interview to a media organization, spoke eloquently and very positively about India, saying that it has everything going right for it, it is the emerging market to watch out for, except the fact that the government changed and the new dispensation took office soon after, and that probably was not to his liking or wasn't pliable enough as he would have liked. There are several coincidences to suggest that George Soros has a truck with India's opposition party, starting from Shashi Tharoor, who met George Soros just before the cabinet expansion or swearing in 2009, and several other leaders have at different points in time met George Soros and have spoken quite eloquently about his vision for India and the world. So clearly he seems to be not comfortable with the current regime, which is not perhaps willing to play ball with him and his investment interests. And that is why he wants a government that is more pliable, that is more suited to his interests. And that probably explains the $1 billion that he put out or pledged to target rising nationalism, as he called, or would-be dictators. Now explain to me how a prime minister elected by 1.3 billion people is any less worthy of being in office because somebody called George Soros with $1 billion thinks that the country deserves someone else to be the prime minister or there should be a different regime. It's quite simple. The man has voracious greed for making money. He uses financial markets to do that. He has done so successfully with Bank of England and has wreaked havoc in several other economies and has perhaps even managed to unsettle some governments and got better. But this is India. It has a far more resilient democracy. And despite his Indian collaborators, who are of all hues, they exist in political parties, primarily the main opposition party, the Congress. And there are also some busybodies, some NGOs, some lawyers who routinely file matters and take them to the judicial route, use litigation as a legitimate tool for agenda setting and narrative. And we've seen that quite aggressively 2018 onwards, from the violence and the big push for scrapping the sedition law that came after the violence of Bhima Koregaon, the farmer agitation, the CAA protest, most recently the Rafale controversy, Pegasus. All of them have an imprint of George Soros. They are somewhere linked to organizations, to media houses, to professionals, to activists, to busybodies who are funded by George Soros or have a truck with him, have attended conferences, been seen with him, or in general are part of the cabal that is left-leaning and funded by the billions that George Soros has earned through his malpractices or manipulating markets, if you like it.
Okay, so let me just very quickly open this up further, and I'll bring in Dr. Ranganathan. Dr. Ranganathan, look, there is an interesting point that Amit Malviya makes. He says, what changed? Well, under the UPA, if he was handing out certificates of democracy, then a quick, very quick recap just of what the UPA was about when it came to upholding democratic principles. Now, Dr. Manmohan Singh himself, let me tell you, viewers, identified Indian citizens as the enemy number one. If you remember, viewers, Maoists, he called them. It's the enemy number one, the most dangerous internal security threat to the country. And he was right. Unfortunately, today, they speak up for urban Naxals. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Urban Naxals, the term was brought up, coined by the UPA, submitted in an affidavit to the Supreme Court. Today, of course, they say that urban Naxals are dissenters who are being shafted by the Modi government. That's a very interesting one. Then, of course, viewers, sedition cases, Section 66A. Nothing really spectacularly has changed. They went after NGOs, viewers. NGOs amnesty was first surveyed, in a sense, by the UPA. FCRA licenses, other organizations, certain Muslim groups that, in fact, when attacked by the Indian state, Sonia Gandhi cried over, were also banned by the UPA. So viewers, they were on the right track, yet Soros had no problem. Modi comes and just takes it a bit forward, and Soros has a problem. Dr. Ranganathan, who has the real problem?
Good evening, Rahul. Look, one can't help but think of George Soros as a comical Bond villain. A geriatric jellyfish hobbling around in a Zimmer frame 10,000 miles away and dreaming of a rose-tinted revolution just because he has collected some chauthi-fail hacks and activists by throwing pennies in their piss pot. But sadly, the BJP is doing it the wrong way around. Rather than rebutting what he is saying, they are rebutting why he's saying, and he has full right to do whatever he wants to do. So let me expose him with data and facts on everything that he said. This may take a couple of minutes. Please bear with me. Number one, enough has been said in Adani, but I'd recommend Soros read that brilliant data-driven op-ed yesterday by our ex-CEA, Dr. Subramaniam, in Times of India, completely exposing Hindenburg and other people's agenda. Number two, as for Soros's claim that India is not really a democracy under Modi, let me inform this sun-dried turnip that the real test for democracy is the independence of two institutions, Supreme Court and Election Commission. And under Modi, these two are not compromised, whatever their feelings may be. Everything else in an Indian democracy, Rahul, is being stifled as much now as it has ever been. Because sadly, there is constitutional approval for it. Like, for example, on freedom of speech and religious freedom. And what democracy is Soros talking of when a professor is arrested for sharing a Mamata cartoon in Bengal and acquitted after 11 years? Or when the communist government in Kerala books 120 people for social media posts criticizing CM Vijayan? Or when there exist as many as 285 documented instances of brutal trampling of democracy under the Congress, 87 of those in the last 15 years, including 9,000 activists charged with sedition in a single day. Truth is, Soros's own foundation and its cohorts actively subverted democracy in India by supporting and fanning the illegal Shaheen Bagh and anti-farm bill blockade protests. Truth is, Modi has never unilaterally in the last 8 years overturned a Supreme Court verdict like Rajiv, never abused Article 356 like Indira, never passed a press objectionable act like Nehru. Number 3, and as for Soros's claim that Modi is anti-Muslim, let me educate this rancid custard further. Truth is, Modi as Prime Minister has done more for Muslims than he has for Hindus. Let me explain. Has he taken control of mosques like he has of Hindu temples? No. Has he disbanded the scholarships for Muslim students? No. In fact, he has given scholarships to more Muslims than Manmohan Singh did. 2.37 crore versus 2.33 crore. Has he overturned the SC Sabrimala judgment to placate Hindus like the Shah Bano judgment was overturned by the Congress to placate Muslims? No. Has he reduced AMU funding? No. In fact, he has increased it, including a 90 crore topping up. Has he abrogated the Anti-Hindu Place of Worship Act? No. Has he repealed the Anti-Hindu RTE? No. Minorities before 2014, 20,000 skill trained, 5% with government jobs, 3 crore scholarships, 70% girls school dropout rate. Minorities after 2014, 2 million skill trained, 10% with government jobs, 5 crore scholarships, free UPSC coaching, 30% girls school dropout rate, while our Muslim population is 14.2%. As many as 31.3% of homes under Awas Yojana, 33% of funds under Kisan Samman Nidhi, and 36% beneficiary under Mudra Yojana have been Muslims. Housing, skilling, scholarships, government jobs. No other Prime Minister has comparatively done more for Muslims than Modi. Rahul, you can give a million rebuttals to these illogical, selective, propaganda and fake narrative-driven NGOs and foreign media outlets and their handlers. It only encourages them. What they can't stand is the rebuttal Modi dishes out to them once every 5 years. Kasam se us ek thappad ki goonj is what hurts them. Just 30 seconds. Modi is delivering growth. Soros is delivering anarchy. Modi is strengthening rural economy. Soros is strengthening mobocracy. Modi is building highways. Soros is building media houses. Modi is funding urban centers. Soros is funding urban naxals. Trust Indians, ignore Soros.
Well, Sanjay Jha, is it a coincidence that all those who flock under the banner of dissenters and shed tears for a democratic backsliding here in India are funded by Soros, who has set aside a $1 billion bounty over Modi's head? Is there a coincidence here?
Rahul, I hope you will have it's a reasonable expectation of mine that you'll give me the same amount of time that you gave to the BJP spokesperson and to the author, to the eminent author. Now, let me make my points in a very succinct fashion, but they need to be stated, and I will appreciate if you don't interrupt me. I won't take too long. Point number 1, I don't want a diversion. Let's come to the bottom line here. Who is Gautam Adani's sugar daddy or fairy godmother? It is Narendra Modi. And the Prime Minister of India will have to speak up and open up on that. He can't dodge it by this Maun Vrat that he did in Parliament. Point number 2, if any political party has damaged India's reputation globally, it is the BJP. We are a laughing stock of the world. And I can tell you something, Rahul, you are part of a very big media group. Narendra Modi and the BJP can throttle Indian media. Unfortunately, beyond the borders of this country, there are democracies, there are media which take on their own governments, and now they're taking on Modi and his government. It's nothing very peculiar. In fact, it's something that we should welcome, that at the end of the day, this government is facing the music that it should have earlier, frankly, from our own shores. Point number 3, and this is critical here, and I'm going to quote to you. Are you trying to tell me that Morgan Stanley, Moody's, Citibank, Standard Chartered, Credit Suisse, Total Energy, Dow Jones, Standard & Poor, who have rubbished the Adani stock, either in terms of weightages on the index or giving it a negative outlook, are they wrong? Are they banana republic or what? I mean, this is exactly what George Soros is saying. Point number 4, very important, and let me quote to you. George Soros says that Narendra Modi is killing democracy. Let me quote to you The Economist. Because, you know, everyone from the BJP runs to the Davos every year, right? This is what The Economist said. intolerant India on its front cover. And then this is the subtext. How Modi is endangering the world's biggest democracy. I'm not going to talk to you about New York Times, Washington Post, because now what these right-wing guys are going to say, I quite understand that. The very fundamental point. George Soros, by the way, has also taken on China, has also taken on Turkey. The countries that I believe Mr. Modi's government is very worried about is taken on Russia, which is, by the way, the kingpin of a disinformation war against democracies. We all know that. Fundamental point, institutions. If India's institutions were healthy, Rahul, if SEBI was working, if the Minister of Finance was working, if the RBI was working, if the DRI was working, if the CBI was working, Gautam Adani would not have had a party where his assets, or rather his net wealth, went up by 85% of his wealth happened in 3 years. I mean, what kind of a banana republic has the BJP made this country? You can go and clamp the BBC, but let me tell you something very honestly. Some people are not going to like it, but the truth must be said. The BBC has a credibility that the BJP will probably never have in its entire lifetime. And I think it's about time they accepted this reality. You can frighten, you can threaten an online platform, you can scare a Times Now. And I can tell you something, Rahul. Tomorrow, if this government comes against your channel or goes against an NDTV, which happens to be Adani's channel for all I care, people like us will fight for you, because we believe India needs a transparent media. And I know today many journalists, I have friends across the fraternity who came and told me that, you know what, end of day, maybe this is just desserts for a party that is using its brute power to try and throttle, subjugate, make the domestic media subservient.
Right.
But the foreign media is calling a spade, and it's hurting them. So that is the hard truth that we need to put on the table.
So are you done? Because you inevitably draw in Times Now. पहले आप अपने पार्टी को बोल दो कि अपना स्पोक्सपर्सन तो भेज दे, बाद में आप बोलना कि वो कब किसके साथ खड़े होंगे, पहले आ जाओ, डिबेट पे तो आ जाओ.
I'm working on that anyway.
कितने सालों से बॉयकॉट क्यों कर रखा है? If you hang on, if you know the problem, if you think that someone's got their jackboot on our jugular, then send your spokesperson here so he can expose them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
so
Rahul,
then, just tell me, if you can't stand up for... and you want to stand up for... No, hang on, you want to stand up for the British press. यहाँ पर थोड़ा अपनी press के लिए भी कुछ कर लीजिए.
हाँ, लड़ेंगे, लेकिन राहुल, एक 56 इंच की छाती got scared of a 92-year-old
Now let me tell you, viewers,
what kind of a 56 इंच की
while protesting, Tamil Nadu youth Congress workers tore pages of Times of India, mistaking it for the Time magazine in 2012. Okay.
They burnt it.
So they burnt it. Then let me tell you, viewers, I like the touching sentiments, and I'm not here to disparage anybody. I'm just talking about facts. So Sanjay Jha, Moody's and all that, you've thrown words around. But remember, let me also tell you that there have been scandals associated with these rating agencies. They're easy to be lobbied, etc., etc. You know this. You've been in the corporate world.
Have agreed with the
no, one second. You've been Sanjay ji. You've been in the corporate world. You've been in the corporate world. You know how these things. A couple of parties here and there, little nice caviar and champagne and kuch bhi chhapwa do. But that's a different matter. 1 second.
The market is king and the market has answered.
Okay, so the BJP has throttled the media here, and we have to now believe in the foreign hand. Now let me tell you, viewers, something. Indira Gandhi talked about the foreign hand several times. In March 1976, addressing a public rally in Calcutta, Calcutta, Gandhi told her foreign critics not to interfere in India's affairs. We don't care for their criticism, whether it came from the Socialist International or any other organization. In August 1980, having returned back to power, Gandhi was back to seeing the foreign hand. She claimed to have received reports of such forces behind the riots in Moradabad and other places. Speaking at a meeting of the CWC, today, sir, your bosses go and they sign deals with the foreign hand. What changed? Indira Gandhi was... Was Indira Gandhi lying about the foreign hand to cover up her deficiencies? Or is the Congress today...
Which Chinese firms have funded
I'm asking you. Okay. Manmohan Singh, Dr. Manmohan Singh, The atomic energy program has run into difficulties because these NGOs, mostly I think based in the United States, don't appreciate the need of our country to increase energy supply. There are NGOs often funded from the United States and Scandinavian countries which are not fully appreciative of the development challenges that our country faces. This was in 2012, just about 10 years back, viewers. And let me tell you what the MHA during the UPA tenure said about NGOs. While it is not proper to make sweeping generalizations, it is necessary to note that NGO sector in India is vulnerable to the risks of money laundering and terrorist financing. It's your own government, sir.
Let me tell you, Rahul, in simple terms, the market has answered that they trust the Hindenburg research and not the Indian government.
Okay.
And that has to
Something
be answered
Dr.
by the Prime
Ranganathan is
Minister,
pointing
Mr. Modi.
towards. I want to bring in right after that.
Okay,
let's open this up. Okay, sir, fair enough. You can spook the market, sir. The Bank of England got spooked by the same man, Soros. I mean, come on, what are you saying?
Moody's, you can't spook Morgan Stanley
Okay,
International.
well, I told you, you can lobby them and have a good time. And this Morgan Stanley business that you're talking about, it lied to its own public, didn't it? Didn't it lead to a massive crisis in America?
I'm talking about the index.
No, what index are you talking about, sir? Come on, now let's grow up a little bit. No, let's not be so naive. Sanjay Jha, let's not be naive, please. Let's not be naive. Let's not be naive, sir. Let's not be naive. Let's not be naive. These banks were over-leveraged to the point, viewers, where millions of Americans were left without a home. Some of them jumped out of their little office corner windows. You know all of this. Do I have to take you back? Anyhow, they all got bailed out, by the way. Now, Dr. Ranganathan, you were showing something, and I want to bring in Mr. Pai right after. Yes, as well as our other esteemed guests.
Yes, sorry to be interrupting and taking the time of other guests, but just because my good friend Sanjay took my name. So, unfortunately, Sanjay is the other side of the BJP when it comes to rebutting Soros. He gets emotional. BJP gets emotional without providing any data against Soros, and Sanjay is getting emotional without giving any data for Soros. The fact is, Sanjay has raised many important points. And the spelling, unfortunately, of raised is R-A-Z-E-D. Now, I prepared for this discussion, Rahul, and I have listed 21 points. 21 facts that rebut on the 3 points that Soros made. Sanjay has not mentioned even a single fact. Not a single fact.
Really?
That is Modi anti-Muslim. No, Sanjay, please don't interrupt. Please.
Yes, sir. Have you heard of lynching murders? Lynching के बारे में सुना है भैया?
Sanjay, this is unfair. Please.
Lynching के बारे में सुना है?
Rahul,
ये सुना है?
Sanjay Jha, why are you being boorish? Now come on, let him finish. He never interrupted you even for a second. You spoke for 6 minutes.
Why you are bringing out the Bihari accent? What is your idea behind using Bihari accent when you're saying this? Please don't demean people of this country. Number 2. And as for Sanjay agreeing to everything, Rahul, I can't continue like
Sanjay
this.
Jha, that's not fair. Please, come on. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
And I just wanted to say, because he's agreed with everything that George Soros has said, can I please ask him, in 2008, when India was investing importantly in Africa, Soros called us colonials. He abused Manmohan Singh and said we are colonial powers. Does Sanjay Jha agree with George Soros that Congress was acting as a colonial power? Say yes or no.
Anand, thank you very much for showing that. Hang on. Let me answer you. Thank you very much for showing that. That establishes the very point I'm making. That George Soros is a big investor. He makes a comment on countries. The UPA did not have a panel discussion calling him anti-national. फर्क समझ गए गुरुजी?
Do you agree with George Soros that we are colonial?
Okay. Well, very quickly, let me bring in Mohandas Pai. Mohandas Pai, where do you stand on this? Jahangir Ali is also waiting for his turn. Yes.
Rahul, if Russia and China were to fund NGOs in the United States to fight for democracy, what would the US say? If Pakistan and ISI were to fund Indian NGOs or some Indian organization to fight for democracy in India, what would you say? If North Korea were to fund the BBC or the British NGOs to fight for democracy in the UK, what would you say? You say this is not acceptable because all of them are motivated. They clearly have an objective of subverting democracy. And the similar with George Soros. George Soros has openly declared his intention to subvert India's democracy at the will of the Indian people. And he's funding a lot of NGOs in this country. He has got people like, I think, Harsh Mandar, Salil
But
Shetty,
Mohandas Pai,
and,
aren't there ties between George Soros and Infosys also that you worked for at one point?
There are no ties.
There are no ties?
Absolutely no ties.
None?
None.
Okay, so no funding, no initiatives?
There's no funding given by George Soros to impose a cash surplus company. What will they do with George Soros?
Very important. Very important clarification because this has been doing the rounds today.
What has been doing the round is something called the Independent Press Foundation, where some of the founders' wives have put money, where George Soros is supposed to put money along with them to fund people like The Wire. But that has got nothing to do with Infosys. That has got to do with individuals who were family members, the founders of Infosys, and that is the public domain. And I don't agree with them. In fact, let me tell you, I wrote to one of them, who is a funder, and told him what The Wire is doing is creating fake narratives, and that very big industrialist asked the chairman of the trustees to come and meet me. I spent 2 hours with him and asked him, how can you fund a subversive organization like The Wire and call it independent media? And he told me, disagree with them, and they're going to stop the funding later. Anyway,
well, you might have written, but I just want to make it very clear, viewers. I don't hold a brief for The Wire, but The Wire is not here to respond to these charges, and I won't want The Wire to be dragged into this, Mohandas Pai. So, okay, fair enough. You made your point. You don't have to mention names.
You put The Wire on a TV channel as saying they got some award and all that. Anyway, now let me make this point. Let me make this point very clearly. All right. We have seen Sanjay Jha come and spew his vitriol against the NDA government for the last 5-6 years. Has anything happened to him? Has anybody threatened him? What it is about freedom of speech in this country?
No, I'll tell you who threatened him. The Congress party threatened him and they suspended him.
Yes.
That's a very ridiculous example.
Even today,
that's a ridiculous example.
All kind of allegations against anybody. Now, I want to make one more point, Rahul.
No, but why is it ridiculous? Sanjay Jha, hang on. Why is it ridiculous? I want to ask you, you had no freedom of speech in the Congress party that sort of weeps.
No, I did. I had freedom of speech.
So why are you suspended?
Oh, I had differences on political strategy. That's fine. That's okay.
No, but why are you suspended for having differences? That's the whole point of democracy. You can have differences.
Where is the dissent? Where is the dissent?
It's cool.
I can tell you the Congress party had an election for a Congress president. It did not give Nadda an extension.
Viewers,
so there's a difference
between
the
BJP.
Let's be clear.
Election that everybody has told whom to vote. Anyway, Rahul.
A Congress leader called Rahul Gandhi a pappu. He was sacked.
अरे भैया जरा अदानी और मोदी जी के बारे में बात करें डॉक्टर साहब.
I'm going to talk about it.
डॉक्टर साहब अदानी जी और मोदी जी के बारे में बात करते हैं. अदानी मोदी भाई ट्रेंड कर रहा था.
Rahul, Sanjay speaks about the market punishing Adani. It is true, but the market rewarded Adani. Why did the price go up 800% or whatever in 2 to 3 years? The market rewarded him for whatever reason. When a short seller sold and get a panic, the market takes you up, the market beats you down. He's got his own logic. Will you say when the market is going up is manipulated, when the market is coming down is not manipulated? Can you make the kind of silly arguments?
Let me quickly bring in Jahangir Ali.
Alexa, stop.
Jahangir Ali, Soros money goes to a large number of people who the BJP believes, not through coincidence, but through deliberate design, then are funded to spread fake news, etc., etc. Could you respond to the main question here, please? Jahangir Ali.
Rahul, thank you for having me on the show.
Most welcome,
A couple of points that I would like to make. First is about Mr. Ranganathan pointed out that there are certain institutions whose functioning determine whether a country is a democracy or not. And he pointed to the Supreme Court and the Election Commission. Now he should come to Jammu and Kashmir and see how people see Election Commission, which has refused to announced dates for assembly elections in Jammu and Kashmir, and also the actions of Supreme Court, which has also not found time yet to hear the Article 370 pleas. That's number one. Number two is about what
okay,
Mr. Jha
one
was
second,
also...
Mr. Ali, I'm sorry I have to interrupt you, but the